She landed in Seoul for a corporate job, but her first 11 minutes put her in the crosshairs of an assassination. She was just a risk analyst, but when the bullets started flying, the city's most dangerous crime lord shielded her with his life. A dropped data card, a secret ledger. She picked it up, not knowing she just became the most hunted woman in Seoul. They want the ghost ledger, and the criminal underworld will stop at nothing to hunt down the beautiful African-American foreigner who found it. She's a brilliant corporate analyst. He's an untouchable Mafia King. To survive the night, they'll have to trust each other.
If you loved this Afro-Korean romance, hit that like button, share this story with friends who love a good mafia plot twist, follow us for more intense romantic thrillers, and make sure to subscribe with notifications on so you never miss what happens next. New stories drop every week.
The first bullet shattered the revolving door before Amara Johnson understood that anyone was shooting. One moment, she was standing beneath the silver awning of the Haniel Crown Hotel, fighting the cold Seoul rain with one hand and pulling a suitcase with the other. The next, glass burst across the marble entrance like frozen lightning. People screamed. A black sedan jumped the curb. Two masked figures leaned from its rear windows, their weapons aimed not at the hotel, but at the tall Korean man stepping from a waiting car. He wore a charcoal overcoat and no visible fear. Kang Min-Jae turned at the first shot. The people around him moved with military precision, but the attack had been designed for that. A delivery motorcycle exploded beside the security vehicle, forcing his guards apart. One attacker advanced through the smoke, while another swept the hotel entrance with gunfire. Amara dropped behind a stone planter. Her suitcase rolled into the street. She had been in Seoul for 11 minutes. A ricochet struck the planter. She covered her head, hearing her mother's voice from years ago. When panic enters the room, let it find you thinking. So Amara looked. The sedan had diplomatic plates. One shooter wore an expensive watch over a black glove. The motorcycle courier had abandoned the bike seconds before it exploded, and across the street, beneath a red umbrella, a hotel employee was filming, not the attack, but her. Then the advancing gunman saw her. His weapon shifted. Before he could fire, Min-Jae crossed the distance between them. He seized Amara by the arm, pulled her behind a concrete column, and fired twice toward the sedan. The shots struck its front tire and windshield. The vehicle spun, clipped a taxi, and vanished into the rain. The remaining attacker rushed them. Min-Jae stepped forward rather than back. He deflected the gun, struck the attacker's wrist, and drove them against the column. The weapon fell. One of Min-Jae's guards arrived, but a police siren sounded nearby, and the attacker tore free, disappearing through the terrified crowd. Min-Jae looked down at Amara. Rain darkened his hair, but his breathing remained steady. "Are you hurt?" he asked in English. "I don't think so." "Then leave Seoul." Amara stared at him. "I just got here." His gaze moved to the identification badge hanging from her neck. Amara Johnson, Meridian Global Holdings, Internal Risk Division. For the first time, something disturbed his composure. "Where did you get that?" "From my employer." A guard spoke urgently in Korean. Min-Jae answered without looking away from her. The police were approaching. Hotel security poured outside. The employees with the red umbrella was gone. Min-Jae released Amara's arm. "Forget what you saw. You saved my life, but that doesn't give you the right to order me around." "No," he said quietly. "What you saw gives other people a reason to kill you." He turned and walked toward his car. Amara looked down. Something thin and black lay near her shoe. A cracked data card, probably knocked from the attacker's coat during the struggle. Without thinking, she picked it up and slipped it into her pocket. Across the street, high above the glowing traffic, a figure stood behind the window of an office tower. A phone vibrated in Min-Jae's hand as he entered his car. The message contained a photograph taken seconds earlier. Amara beneath the hotel awning. Under it were 6 words, "The analyst has the ghost ledger." Detective Han Soo-yeon listened without interrupting. At Seoul Metropolitan Police Headquarters, Amara described the sedan, watch, the diplomatic plate, and the employee beneath the red umbrella. Detective Han, composed and sharp-eyed, took careful notes. "You notice details," Han said. "It's my job." "And Kang Min-Jae saved you?" That was the man's name? Han closed the notebook. You truly don't know who he is? Amara shook her head. The detective slid a photograph across the desk. Min-Jae stood outside a courthouse, surrounded by reporters. Hotel owner, shipping investor, chairman of the Myeongsong Foundation, suspected leader of one of Seoul's most disciplined criminal organizations. Suspected? Suspicion and evidence are different things. Han studied her. Did he give you anything? No. The answer came too quickly. Amara felt the data card in her coat pocket like a hot coin. Han's expression did not change. Be careful whom you trust, Ms. Johnson. Outside headquarters, Amara noticed the gray sedan. It remained 3 cars behind her taxi. When the taxi stopped, it stopped. When she entered the Hanoel Crown, a man in a navy cap climbed out and watched the doors. Amara told herself she was tired. She had crossed 8 time zones, survived gunfire, and spent 2 hours in a police station. Fear could turn coincidence into conspiracy. Then she entered her hotel room. Her luggage had been opened with surgical neatness. Nothing appeared disturbed except her laptop, which lay half an inch from where she had left it. The sealed envelope containing her audit authorization was empty. The encrypted backup drive from her suitcase was gone. Her phone rang. Amara? Said Daniel Price, her division director in London. Are you safe? I heard about the hotel. How did you hear? A regional executive called. Listen, the Seoul review has been cancelled. Return home tomorrow. You sent me here because $43 million moved through 7 dormant subsidiaries. We resolved it internally. In 12 hours? Do not access Meridian systems. That's an order. The line went dead. Someone knocked. Amara took the heavy flashlight from the bedside drawer and approached the door. Through the peephole, the corridor appeared empty. A white envelope slid beneath the door. Inside was a photograph of Amara entering police headquarters. A red circle had been drawn around Detective Han. On the back, someone had written, "She works for them." The lights went out. Amara heard the electronic lock click. A shadow entered. She swung the flashlight. The intruder caught her wrist, but Amara drove a knee forward and twisted away. A second figure came through the balcony door. She hurled a lamp, shattered the window, and triggered the fire alarm. Sirens screamed through the room. Sprinklers erupted. The first intruder grabbed for her coat. They were not searching for the missing company drive. They wanted the data card. Amara shoved a chair into the intruder's legs, ran into the corridor, and collided with a man in a black suit. Before she could scream, he raised both hands. "Ms. Johnson, come with me. I've had enough strangers giving me instructions." The intruders emerged behind her. The man in the suit moved fast. He blocked a punch, slammed one attacker into the wall, and used the other's momentum to send them through a housekeeping cart. Amara ran for the stairs. At the landing below, Min-Jae waited beside the open emergency exit. "Get in the car," he said. "No!" A shot struck the metal door beside her. Amara got in. The sedan sped away as police vehicles converged on the hotel. Inside, Min-Jae sat opposite her. The guard who had rescued her introduced himself as Park Dae-hyun, Min-Jae's security chief. Amara held the flashlight like a weapon. "Did you break into my room?" "If I had," Min-Jae said, "you would not have heard me." Comforting. "What did you take from the attacker?" "Nothing." Min-Jae's eyes settled on her wet coat pocket. "You are a poor liar. And you're an alleged criminal, not alleged by the people chasing us." The car entered an underground garage and stopped behind a steel gate. Min-Jae did not move. "Your employer placed your name on a list," he said. "The assassins were ordered to recover something called the Ghost Ledger. They believe you have it. I don't know what that is. Neither do I. But the attack outside the hotel was never only about killing me." Amara remembered the red umbrella aimed at her. Min-Jae leaned forward. "You're already involved, whether you like it or not." She met his gaze. "Saving me twice doesn't make you trustworthy." "No, but being the only person who wants you alive should make me useful." Dae-hyun's phone chimed. His face hardened as he showed Min-Jae the screen. Security footage from the police station showed Detective Han entering our restricted elevator. Beside her stood the masked attacker with the expensive watch. Amara felt the floor fall away beneath everything she believed. Then her own phone lit up with a message from Daniel Price. "If Kang Min-Jae is with you, He is the reason this is happening. Min-Jae's safe house was hidden above a closed tea shop in Bukchon, where tiled roofs, curved beneath the moon, and narrow lanes remembered an older soul. Inside waited Lee Na-ri, a young cybersecurity specialist with silver-rimmed glasses and an alarming collection of candy wrappers. She accepted the cracked data card from Amara with gloved hands. Hardware encryption, Na-ri said. Damaged controller. Self-erasing partition. Whoever made this expected capture, how long? Min-Jae asked. 6 hours if I'm brilliant, 12 if I'm only excellent. Amara stood by the window. I should contact my embassy. Your arrival was known before you cleared immigration, Min-Jae said. Your room was accessed with a hotel master key. Your police statement reached the attackers before you returned. Make no call until we know the shape of the trap. You expect me to hide with people who may be criminals? Daehyun placed tea on the table. At present, we are criminals with tea. Na-ri laughed. Min-Jae did not. Amara opened the financial files she had cached on a tablet before leaving London. The suspicious transfers looked ordinary in isolation. Consulting fees, equipment purchases, insurance settlements. Together, they formed a repeating pattern through Meridian subsidiaries in Singapore, Cyprus, Panama, and Busan. The money isn't moving in a circle, she said. It's moving in a spiral. Each transfer loses a fraction to taxes, fees, and currency conversion. Launderers try to preserve value. These people are deliberately bleeding money. Why? Min-Jae asked. To hide a second transaction inside the loss. She enlarged the exchange rate data. Every fee corresponded to a coded number. When arranged by date, the numbers became coordinates, shipping container identifiers, and initials. One set of initials appeared repeatedly. KMJ. Min-Jae's face became unreadable. They're framing you, Amara said. Or confirming what you already believe. I believe evidence. Evidence can be taught to lie. Na-ri recovered the first fragment from the card. It contained a photograph of a private dinner, a deputy minister, Meridian's sole president, 2 syndicate leaders, and Detective Han. Beside them sat Daniel Price. Amara stared at the man who had recruited her 5 years earlier, paid for her professional certification, and defended her when senior executives called her questions disruptive. He sent me here, she whispered. Min-Jae watched her absorb the betrayal, perhaps to find the ledger. Or because he believed I could expose it. Hope is not evidence. Neither is cynicism. Before he could answer, the tea shop windows exploded inward. Smoke canisters rolled across the floor. Daehyun killed the lights. Min-Jae pulled Amara behind a timber pillar. Asarmed figures breached from the front and roof. Na-ri yanked the data card from her equipment, shoved it into a candy tin, and kicked the tin through a trap door. The attackers wore police tactical uniforms. Amara saw one raise a weapon toward Na-ri. She threw a ceramic teapot. It struck the attacker's visor, buying Daehyun time to disarm them. Min-Jae fought through the smoke with controlled, economical movements, never striking after an opponent fell. Backstairs! Daehyun shouted. They fled across adjoining rooftops slick with rain. Bullets cracked against clay tiles. Amara slipped at the edge of a narrow gap between buildings. Min-Jae caught her wrist. Below, blue police lights flooded the alley. Let go, Amara gasped. You'll fall. I gave my word. You never gave it to me. I did when I pulled you from the hotel. He dragged her up. Together they crossed the gap as the roof behind them collapsed under gunfire. They reached an old courtyard where a delivery van waited. As Daehyun drove them away, Amara looked back and saw Detective Han standing among the tactical officers. Han raised a phone, not a gun. Amara's phone rang seconds later. Don't hang up, Han said. The photograph on the card is altered. I was at that dinner undercover. Why should I believe you? Because Daniel Price didn't send you to expose Meridian. He sent you to deliver the ledger to Kang. The connection cut. Na-ri stared at the recovered image. She's right about one thing. The shadows behind Daniel don't match. Someone inserted him. The betrayal was real, but not the betrayal Amara had assumed. At dawn, they moved to one of Min-Jae's legitimate properties, a riverside hotel, still under construction. There, Amara traced the coded losses to a Meridian account, authorized under her own employee credentials. Someone had used her identity to approve $90 million in transfers. If this becomes public, she said, I look like the architect. That is why they chose you, Min-Jae replied. An ambitious foreign analyst arrives, steals company money, and becomes entangled with a crime boss. The story writes itself. Amara fought the shame rising in her throat. She had spent her life building an anime no one could dismiss. Now strangers had turned that name into camouflage. Min-Jae placed a folder before her. Inside were surveillance photographs of her London apartment, her younger brother outside his university, and her mother leaving church. We intercepted these from an assassin's courier, he said. Her calm finally cracked. They watched my family? I have already placed protection near them. Your people who do not know why they are protecting them. She wanted to reject the help. Instead, she sank into a chair. Why? She asked. Why protect strangers? Min-Jae looked toward the pale river. Because once, someone decided my family was an acceptable cost. It was the first personal thing he had offered her. Nari interrupted from across the room. I found the next key. The ledger partition opens only when connected to Meridian's Seoul archive server. The server was located 40 floors above the city in Meridian Tower, and at 9 that morning, Amara was expected there for a meeting with the executive who had stolen her identity. Meridian Tower rose from Yoido like a blade of blue glass. Amara entered through the main lobby wearing a cream suit, her visitor badge visible, a miniature transmitter hidden beneath its clip. Min-Jae's team monitored from a maintenance van. Nari whispered directions through an earpiece. You have 11 minutes before the security audit notices your revoked credentials. Plenty of time, Amara said. It is absolutely not plenty of time. At the executive floor, Meridian Seoul President Choi Eun-suk welcomed Amara with a grandfatherly smile. Terrible misunderstanding, Choi said. Daniel should never have frightened you. Sit. We can resolve everything. His office overlooked the Han River. On his desk stood a photograph from the private dinner recovered from the card. But in this original version, Daniel was absent. Detective Han was present, facing away from the table. Choi followed Amara's eyes. Charity event. An exclusive one. You came to Seoul because you ask uncomfortable questions. I admire that. You used my credentials. His smile faded by 1 degree. Did Kang Min-Jae tell you that? The transaction logs did. Choi opened a drawer. Amara tensed, but he removed a personnel file. Min-Jae's organization murdered your predecessor, he said. Elena Varga discovered the same irregularities. She trusted him. Then she disappeared. Amara remembered Elena, whose sudden resignation had created the opening for her assignment. Where is she? Ask your protector. The fire alarm sounded. Nari's voice entered Amara's ear. That's not us. Office doors locked automatically. Men in maintenance uniforms emerged from the stairwell with weapons. Choi dropped behind his desk. One of the attackers fired through the glass wall. Amara crawled toward the archive access panel. They're here for the server. And for you, Nari said. Connect the card now. Amara inserted it. A progress bar appeared. Decrypting. 4%. The attackers breached the office. Choi's security returned fire. Sprinklers filled the floor with artificial rain. Min-Jae stepped from the service elevator. He moved through the confusion with Dae-hyun at his side, using smoke and cover rather than reckless force. Amara kept one hand on the card while bullets shooed through desks. At 70%, the server began wiping itself. Nari, keep it connected. Choi crawled toward a private elevator. Amara saw an attacker aiming at his back. She could have let the corrupt executive die. Instead, she rolled a metal waste bin into the shooter's path. The shot struck steel. Min-Jae disarmed the attacker and stared at Amara as if her choice had surprised him. The progress bar reached 100. Every screen on the floor turned black. Then a list appeared. Judges, executives, customs officers, prosecutors, and crime leaders, each linked to payments from an entity called Mugunghwa Trust. At the top was a photograph of the trust's chairperson. Chairwoman Seo Hye-rin was one of South Korea's most admired philanthropists, a former prosecutor celebrated for fighting corruption. Her foundation funded hospitals, schools, and Min-Jae's own youth shelters. She controls the network, Amara whispered. Choi began laughing from the floor. You think Seo is the top, he said. Seo is the lock. You still haven't found the key. The server detonated. The blast threw Amara across the office. Min-Jae shielded her from falling glass as smoke engulfed the executive floor. Dae-hyun dragged Choi toward the stairwell, but a second explosion separated them. When they reached the street, Choi had vanished. So had the data card. Back at a hidden meeting room beneath one of Min-Jae's restaurants, accusations erupted. Only 5 people had known about the operation: Amara, Min-Jae, Dae-hyun, Nari, and Min-Jae's longtime advisor, Cho Tae-won. Tae-won had served Min-Jae's father. His quiet counsel had prevented wars and protected the organization through decades of police pressure. The card disappeared, while Dae-hyun had Choi, Tae-won said. Perhaps loyalty has become expensive. Dae-hyun stepped toward him. Say it clearly. Min-Jae raised a hand. The room went silent. Amara studied the fragments Nari had transmitted before the explosion. One access log showed the card reconnecting to a device 3 minutes after they escaped. It wasn't Dae-hyun, she said. The card was inside the building. Nari enlarged the device signature. Police forensic tablet. Detective Han had taken it. A message arrived on Amara's phone with an address in Itaewon and one sentence. Come alone if you want Elena Varga alive. Min-Jae forbade her to go. Amara went anyway. The address led to an underground jazz club closed before sunset. Han waited at a corner table, the data card beside a cup of untouched coffee. A thin woman emerged from behind the stage. Elena Varga was alive. She looked exhausted but uninjured. Amara, Daniel chose you because I told him to. Amara remained standing. You let everyone believe you were dead. To keep my daughter alive. Lena's voice shook. I discovered Meridian's laundering network 2 years ago. Daniel and I built the ghost ledger from hidden transaction fragments. But we couldn't identify the controller. When Seo's people found us, Han hid me. Han pushed the card toward Amara. My commander belongs to Mugunghwa Trust. Half my unit does too. Then why appear in the photograph? I was trying to recruit Choi. He played both sides. Amara looked at Elena. Did Min-Jae kill anyone working with you? No. He refused to move money for Seo. That's why they designed the ledger to frame him. A slow clap sounded from the balcony. Cho Tae-won stepped into view with armed men. An impressive reunion, he said. Min-Jae's most trusted advisor had betrayed him. Tae-won admitted feeding Seo information for 12 years. He had arranged the hotel attack, but not to kill Min-Jae. He wanted the ghost ledger drawn into the open. The assassins had been ordered to miss Min-Jae and kill the courier carrying the card. Amara's arrival had disrupted the plan. You built a war around one piece of plastic, Amara said. A war was already coming, Tae-won replied. I merely chose who would survive it. His people raised their weapons. The club lights died. Music thundered from the speakers. Nari had hacked the sound system, and Dae-hyun crashed through a side entrance. Min-Jae descended from the balcony shadows behind Tae-won. The club erupted into motion. Amara overturned the table and pulled Elena behind the stage. Han exchanged fire with Tae-won's people, while strobing emergency lights turned every movement into broken frames. Dae-hyun fought through the aisle. Min-Jae cornered Tae-won near the bar. You taught me that betrayal deserves death, Min-Jae said. I taught you what your father wanted you to know. Then he was wrong. Min-Jae lowered his weapon. Tae-won smiled and pressed a detonator. Flames raced along the back wall. The explosion collapsed part of the ceiling, allowing Tae-won to escape through a service tunnel. Min-Jae's decision not to kill him had nearly killed them all. Outside, Elena revealed a final secret. Daniel Price was not merely helping her investigation. Years earlier, he had designed Meridian's offshore payment architecture. He claimed he had done so without knowing its purpose, then spent years trying to destroy it. He is guilty, Elena said, but perhaps not of what they say. Amara thought of Min-Jae shielding her from glass, Han lying to protect a witness, and Daniel building the machine he later tried to expose. Truth was no longer a clean line between honest people and liars. It was a room full of cracked mirrors. Min-Jae found her alone beneath a street lamp. You disobeyed me, he said. You don't command me. No. He paused. But I was afraid you would die. The admission seemed to cost him more than any wound. Amara looked at him. You believe emotions are weaknesses. I believed that. And now I believe weakness is refusing to name what controls you. Neither spoke of trust. They no longer needed to. Then Nari called. Someone had leaked the ghost ledger to the press, but altered it first. Every payment linked back to Amara. An international arrest notice had been issued in her name. By morning, Amara's face filled every news channel in Seoul. Foreign analysts suspected in global money laundering scheme. Meridian denied authorizing her investigation. Daniel Price had disappeared in London. Chairwoman Seo appeared before cameras, promising full cooperation and praising law enforcement for acting swiftly. Kang Min-Jae was named as Amara's criminal partner. "They've completed the story," Amara said from Nari's apartment above an electronics shop. "Now facts have to compete with something the public already understands." "Then give them a better story," Nari said. Amara studied the leaked ledger. The alterations were nearly flawless, but the forgers had made one mistake. They converted all timestamps to Seoul time. The original systems recorded transfers in local server time. One payment supposedly approved by Amara at 2:14 a.m. in London had actually passed through a New York server 13 hours earlier, before Shiv received access to the account. A second discrepancy led to a medical charity. A third led to customs records at Incheon port. Piece by piece, Amara discovered that Mugunghwa Trust was not merely laundering criminal profits, it was buying debt. Politicians, executives, and syndicates received secret loans. Once dependent, they became assets. CEO controlled them by controlling what they owed. But Choi said she wasn't the top, Dae-hyun reminded them. The answer arrived in the form of Daniel Price. He appeared on a secure video call, bruised and held in an unknown room. "Amara, listen carefully," he said. "The ghost ledger was never stored on the card. The card is an index. Where is the evidence? With you. I don't have it." "Yes, you do. The currency conversion model I asked you to build last year, the one you called inefficient, you saved a copy." Amara remembered. The model was a harmless training project containing millions of simulated transactions. Daniel had insisted she keep it because it demonstrated her best work. "The simulation is the ledger," she said. "The real values are hidden in the rounding errors. I needed someone honest enough never to sell it, and stubborn enough never to delete their work." A figure entered behind Daniel. "Chairwoman Seo, you see," she said. "Mr. Price always believed character was predictable." "Where are you?" Amara demanded. Seo smiled. "Closer than your friends think." The camera widened. Daniel was being held inside Min-Jae's Riverside Hotel. Taewon had taken control of it. Seo offered an exchange, Daniel for Amara's copy of the model, at an abandoned warehouse near the old rail yard. Min-Jae expected a trap. Amara agreed to go. At the warehouse, she carried a laptop containing a false copy. Min-Jae's people took positions outside, while Han approached through a drainage tunnel. Rain hammered the corrugated roof. Seo arrived without visible guards. "You built hospitals," Amara said. "You funded shelters. Why create all this?" "Because charity treats wounds after power inflicts them," Seo replied. "I Choseto control the hand holding the knife. You became that hand. I became necessary." Daniel was led forward by Choi Eun-suk, alive and smiling. Choi had never been Seo's prisoner or reluctant conspirator. He was her partner, and the unknown key above her. Seo controlled debts. Choi controlled the corporate infrastructure that created them. But the partnership was already breaking. Choi demanded the laptop for himself. Seo's guards aimed at Choi's people. Taewon appeared on the overhead walkway and announced that he had sold the same meeting location to 3 rival syndicates. The warehouse doors crashed open. Vehicles poured in from both sides. Gunfire shattered hanging lights. Min-Jae's team engaged from the rafters while Han cut Daniel free. Amara ran between stacks of shipping pallets with Choi behind her. He caught her near a conveyor belt and seized the laptop. "You think intelligence makes you powerful," he said. "It only makes you useful to powerful people." Amara pressed a key on her watch. The laptop emitted a piercing alarm and locked every nearby electronic door. Sleep route slammed shut. Sprinklers released dense white fire suppressant, blinding his guards. "Intelligence," Amara said, "makes your assumptions expensive." Dae-hyun pulled her to safety as the rival groups turned on one another. Above them, Taewon fired at Min-Jae. Dae-hyun saw the shot first and pushed Min-Jae aside. The bullet struck Dae-hyun below the shoulder. Min-Jae caught him before he fell from the walkway. Taewon escaped again, but not before shouting a truth that stopped Min-Jae cold. "Ask him who ordered your father's death." He pointed at Dae-hyun. At the safe house, a doctor removed the bullet. Dae-hyun refused pain medication until Min-Jae asked the question. Years earlier, Min-Jae's father had ordered the execution of an innocent dock worker who witnessed a smuggling operation. Dae-hyun, then a young driver, had warned the witness. Tae-won discovered the warning and manipulated both sides. During the confrontation, Dae-hyun fired the shot that killed Min-Jae's father to save the dock worker's child. "I joined you because I expected you to kill me when you learned," Dae-hyun sighed. "Then I saw you change the rules your father lived by. I stayed because he believed you could become better than the empire you inherited." Min-Jae stood in silence. The old code demanded vengeance. His own code demanded context. Finally, he set Dae-hyun's weapon on the table beside him. "You should have told me. Yes. You will spend the rest of your life earning back what the lie cost." Dae-hyun bowed his head. "If you allow it, I just did." It was not forgiveness, but it was the end of inheritance as destiny. Meanwhile, Amara extracted the real ledger from her old model. It revealed one final operation, Project Harbor, scheduled for the next night at an abandoned section of Incheon port. Seo and Choi planned to consolidate their entire network through a single emergency transfer, drain their dependent allies, then disappear while those allies fought over the ruins. The transaction required 3 authorization keys: Seo's biometric signature, Choi's corporate token, and the Ghost Ledger Index. Taewon had stolen the index. Nari traced him to the port. Then Han received a command from police headquarters: lead a tactical unit to the same location and arrest Amara and Min-Jae on site. Her compromised commander was sending law enforcement into the final trap. Everyone would be there: the corrupt, the betrayed, the innocent, and the people, no longer certain which they were. The storm reached Incheon after midnight. Rain swept across the abandoned shipping yard in silver sheets. Rusted cranes loomed above rows of containers. Beyond them, the Black Sea struck the concrete harbor wall with the rhythm of distant artillery. Amara sat inside a control booth overlooking Pier 9. Nari connected her laptop to the port network. Daniel and Elena prepared evidence packages for journalists, regulators, and prosecutors in 6 countries. "The moment Seiko begins the transfer, we capture the authorization chain," Amara said. "Then we send everything at once. No single official can bury it." "And if they cut power?" Elena asked. "The cranes have independent industrial batteries." Nari grinned. She turned the port into a giant backup drive. Below, Min-Jae entered the yard with Dae-hyun, whose injured arm was strapped beneath his coat. Han positioned the few officers she trusted outside the main gate. Seo arrived first, in a convoy of black vehicles. Choi came from the opposite direction with Meridian security. Tae-won waited beneath a crane, holding the data card. Then floodlights ignited. Dozens of police vehicles blocked the exits. Han's commander, Chief Im, announced over loudspeakers that everyone was under arrest. Seo did not look surprised. Chief Im worked for her. His officers opened fire, not at the conspirators, but at Min-Jae's team and the control booth. Glass shattered around Amara. Nari dropped behind the console. "Upload?" Amara asked. "Jammed." Min-Jae and Dae-hyun moved between containers as corrupt officers advanced. Han turned her vehicle across the firing line, shielding them, and broadcast Chief Im's illegal order across the police emergency channel. Chief Im ordered her killed. The first major betrayal of the night became the first sacrifice. One of Han's trusted officers, young Sergeant Lim, drove an armored van through the gate controls, opening an escape corridor for civilians and drawing fire away from the booth. The van crashed, but Lim crawled free as honest officers began turning their weapons on Chief Im's unit. The police force split in two. At the transfer station, Choi demanded that Seo authorize the payment. Seo placed her hand on the biometric reader, then smiled. "I changed the destination account." Choi checked the screen. The trillions of won would not go to their shared escape fund. Seo had redirected everything to her foundation. "You sanctimonious thief," he said. "You built a machine without understanding that machines require purpose." Choi drew a gun. Taewon shot it from his hand. "I was promised both your organizations," Taewon said. Seo looked almost amused. "You were promised survival." Her guard captain aimed at Taewon's back. Min-Jae knocked the weapon aside before it fired. Taewon stared at the person he had betrayed repeatedly, and who had just saved his life. Why? Because I will not let her choose what I become. For 1 second, shame crossed Taewon's face. Then Choi's hidden gunman fired. Taewon pushed Min-Jae away and took the bullet meant for him. As he fell, he pressed the data card into Min-Jae's hand. Your father built fear, Taewon whispered. Build something that survives without it. The advisor who had engineered a war died, ending one. Min-Jae rose and faced Choi. Choi fired until his weapon clicked empty. Min-Jae closed the distance, disarmed him, and drove him to the wet concrete. Years of rage narrowed into a single opportunity. Do it! Choi hissed. Prove what you are. Min-Jae looked at Taewon's body, then at Amara in the shattered booth above. He stepped back. No, he said. You will live long enough to hear every verdict. Daehyun handcuffed Choi to a steel railing. Inside the booth, Nari restored a narrow connection through a weather satellite used by cargo ships. Amara inserted the card and began capturing the transfer. 12%, 28%, 43%. CO saw the port cranes activating one by one. Their maintenance lights flashed in sequence as Amara distributed encrypted fragments across the industrial network. Bring me the analyst, CO ordered. Her remaining guards stormed the stairs. Daniel blocked the first at the doorway and was struck down. Elena triggered Akrane, swinging an empty container across the access bridge. It scattered the advancing guards without crushing them, sealing one approach. A second group climbed the exterior ladder. Amara handed Nari the laptop. Keep the transfer alive. Where are you going? To change the ending they wrote for me. She descended into the rain. CO waited near the central terminal, protected by 2 guards. Amara approached with empty hands. You should have run, CO said. I've been running through systems built by people like you my whole life. You mistake endurance for victory, and you mistake control for justice. Seo gestured, and a guard brought Amara to the biometric console. Complete the transfer. Amara studied the screen. The authorization chain was at 81%. The real destination account belonged to Seo's foundation, but beneath it sat thousands of automatic disbursement rules to shell companies, private vaults, and political emergency funds. Seo had betrayed Choi, but not for charity. She intended to become untouchable behind the image of charity. Amara entered her credentials. The screen displayed authorized CO, exhaled. Then every number turned red. Instead of moving the money, Amara had activated Meridian's anti-fraud reconciliation protocol. The system froze every connected account and generated mandatory reports to financial authorities in each jurisdiction. Seo struck her across the face. Reverse it. I can't. Amara tasted rain and blood, but smiled. Neither can you. Your own network signed the reports. Nari's voice burst from the port loudspeakers. Upload complete. Across the world, evidence arrived in newsrooms, courts, compliance offices, and regulatory agencies. Names, dates, accounts, recordings, and authorization signatures spread beyond the reach of any single government. Chief Im heard the announcement and tried to flee. Detective Han intercepted him beside the gate. When he raised his weapon, half his own unit aimed back. It's over, Han said. For the first time that night, an order was obeyed without fear. Seo's guards abandoned her. Some surrendered. Others ran. Rival leaders, discovering their money frozen, turned on Choi and each other, exposing hidden agreements in angry accusations, captured by police body cameras. Seo stood alone beneath the crane lights. You think this is justice? She asked Amara. Tomorrow, another network will form. Maybe, Amara said. Justice isn't permanent. That's why courage can't be temporary. Seo reached for a concealed pistol. Min-Jae stepped between them and caught her wrist. He removed the weapon, then handed it to Han. No unnecessary brutality, he said. Han arrested Seo herein as dawn began to pale the horizon. The storm weakened. Rain softened over the containers, washing soot and blood into thin rivers that vanished between cracks in the concrete. Amara stood at the harbor's edge, exhausted. Min-Jae joined her. You refused to run, he said. So did you. I had an army. You had 12 people and trust issues. A quiet laugh escaped him, the first she had heard. Behind them, Daniel was carried toward an ambulance, conscious and apologizing to everyone. Dae-hyun helped Nari down from the booth. Elena called her daughter. Han watched honest officers place their former commander into a police car. The empire had not disappeared, but its illusion of inevitability had. 6 months later, Meridian Global Holdings no longer existed under that name. Courts in 7 countries seized its hidden subsidiaries. Choi In-suk received a long prison sentence after 3 former allies testified against him. Chief Imand, 23 officials were convicted on corruption charges. Seo Hye-rin's public trial forced a national reckoning with the difference between goodness performed and goodness practiced. Daniel Price pleaded guilty to designing the offshore system and received a reduced sentence for his cooperation. Before entering custody, he sent Amara a letter containing only 2 sentences. "I chose you because I believed you could carry the truth. I am sorry I never asked whether you should have to." Elena reunited with her daughter and became an advisor to an international financial crimes task force. Detective Han was promoted, though she complained that promotion meant more paperwork and fewer useful arguments. Dae-hyun recovered. His loyalty to Min-Jae was no longer built on concealed guilt, which made it quieter and stronger. Nari founded a cybersecurity company and named its first threat detection program Ghost Min-Jae, dismantled the most violent parts of the organization he had inherited. Illegal routes became licensed shipping lines. Underground gambling properties became music venues and restaurants. The transition was neither simple nor pure. Old enemies did not become ethical because documents changed. But Min-Jae submitted records, paid restitution, and accepted investigations that once would have triggered war. Some called it strategy, others called it surrender. Dae-hyun called it survival without fear. Amara returned to financial investigation, this time with an independent global watchdog. Her first major report led to protections for analysts who exposed internal crimes. She no longer believed honesty always won. She believed honesty needed evidence, allies, timing, and people willing to pay its price. On a clear autumn evening, she returned to Seoul for a conference. After her final panel, a handwritten note waited at the hotel desk. "The tea is better when no one is shooting. Min." The Ledger in the Rain 24C. She found Min-Jae at the restored tea shop in Bukchon. New windows reflected lantern light. No guards were visible, though Amara suspected Dae-hyun was somewhere nearby pretending not to watch. Min-Jae poured tea. "You chose the same hotel," he said. "They offered a discount after the window incident." "That sounds unlikely." "It is. I wanted to see whether I was still afraid of the entrance. Were you?" "Yes." She lifted the cup. "I entered anyway." He nodded as if this confirmed something important. They spoke about ordinary things first. Nari's company, Han's promotion, the river in autumn. Then silence settled between them, comfortable but unfinished. "You changed my life," Min-Jae said at last. "I complicated it." "You proved those are not always different," Amara smiled. "You changed mine too. I used to think peaceful meant untouched by danger. And now? Now I think peace is what you build after danger teaches you what matters." Outside, people moved along the narrow street beneath amber leaves. Seoul no longer looked like a city of hiding places. It looked like a city where millions of choices overlapped, some selfish, some brave, most unseen. Min-Jae did not ask her to stay. Amara did not ask him to follow. Promises made too early could become another kind of cage. At the door, she turned. "Do you still believe emotions are weaknesses?" "No," he said. "But they are liabilities." She raised an eyebrow. "A liability," he added, "can also be an investment." Amara laughed and stepped into the evening. Min-Jae watched until the crowd carried her from sight. Not because he feared she would disappear, but because, for the first time, he trusted that distance did not erase what was real. And somewhere beyond the lanterns, Amara understood the truth they had both nearly died to learn. A life is not changed by the moment danger finds us, but by the person we choose to become when fear finally lets us go.
If you loved this Afro-Korean romance, hit that like button. Share this story with friends who love a good mafia plot twist. Follow us for more intense romantic thrillers, and make sure to subscribe with notifications on so you never miss what happens next. New stories drop every week,